Welcome everyone to our the latest in our webinar series. Today we're going to talk about Direct Line Mobile. We're going to use examples, or the things I'm going to talk about are in the latest version of Direct Line Mobile. So that's version 5. So some of you may look at it and say, well, that looks different than the one I have, and that's perfectly normal because version 5 was released very recently. And if we go over some features today that you don't have in your current mobile, we can for sure get you on a list for an upgrade. You just reach out to your account manager, or reach out to, if you don't know who your account manager is, reach out to support and they'll get you in touch with your account manager, and we'll get you set up with the latest version. So Matt is so no everybody's microphones are turned off right now. Matt White is here. He's going to be monitoring the chat. So if you have any questions at all, if I mention anything that you'd like me to cover again, or you'd like me to expand on, or questions about it or whatever, just put them in the chat put them in the chat in the meeting, and we'll stop for questions a couple of times as we go through. All right. So let's get into it then. So as I said, we're going to talk about Direct Line Mobile. So some of you may be using Direct Line Mobile now. Some of you may not be using mobile. Maybe you're doing everything with the desktop version of the system. And so for anyone who's using it, hopefully you'll find a few bits of information here that are useful. And for anyone who's not using it, we're going to show you a tool that's really going to, if you decide you want to use mobile, this is the one to use, and it's definitely going to change things for you. Oh, hold on, it didn't change. There we go. So today's subjects, we're going to talk about some reasons why you'd want to go to mobile, and then we're going to talk about a few features, planning on mobile, which is something that we didn't really have in the past, or was a little harder to use in the past, and we've made that a lot easier with this new version. I'm going to talk quickly about on-demand checklists and some new features in checklists as well. If you attended the last webinar, we did a whole piece on it was really all about checklists, so we did a whole piece on on-demand checklists, so you might notice some of it's familiar. We're going to talk about some inventory management features in the system, and in the mobile, and how that's being expanded, as well as equipment, or you should say fixed assets in the system, and how we've expanded what you can do with your fixed assets as well. Starting out, why Direct Line Mobile? At-site data collection. Some of you might remember, and I grabbed a picture because this is the first mobile device that I used, the old BlackBerry. Back in 2007, I was working for a company doing repairs on ATMs and POS systems, and this was my first look at a mobile software. Was a BlackBerry with a little scroll wheel on the side where you had to scroll through, and you could update your work orders, but they'd only update every 10 minutes or so, and everything was kind of slow to happen. It was really cool at the time, but things are not like that anymore. Now, if you're using Direct Line Mobile, you just need an internet connection. And as long as you have an internet connection, your at-site data collection is instantaneous. Okay, it's happening right away. You're updating your work order. Your maintenance tech is posting their time to their work order, or clocking into their work order, and your planners can see that immediately in real time on the work order console. They're closing a work order, and they close their work order, and your planner sees that again in real time immediately. You can look up inventory. So my note here, more accurate inventory tracking. The reason it's more accurate inventory tracking is because we're getting is because when you're searching for work order or searching for inventory to add to a work order, you're seeing exactly how many are actually on hand, exactly how many are in the warehouse. You're when somebody uses one and pulls it from the warehouse, it updates that on-hand quantity instantaneously. So you're pulling your parts, and you're never have two people pulling the same part, right? You've got everything's happening right away, and it's happening from wherever you are. As long as you've got an internet connection to your phone or your tablet or PC, you can use it on a PC as well. As long as you've got an internet connection, it's you're accessing everything live, and you're updating everything live. Accurate time tracking, I mentioned a little bit, clocking in and clocking out. You only get that with mobile. You don't get that on the desktop version. So clocking into your work orders when you start working on it, and clocking out when you're done. So everybody knows exactly what your technician is working on. You recorded exactly how much time it took to fix a problem. Enhanced checklist features. As I mentioned, if you attended the last webinar, we went through checklists, and we looked at how mobile gives you added value on your checklists, because it does things like automatically create follow-up work orders if you want to. Something fails, something is marked as failed on a checklist. When you close that checklist, you're immediately getting a follow-up work order created. Um, you and I'm going to show you a couple more features like that are a little bit more advanced in version 5 of our mobile. So we're gonna see that today. All right. Go. So planning with Direct Line Mobile. This is something that in the past we weren't sure that people would want to do it, right? Who wants to go on their phone and plan work orders? But more and more more and more we have clients asking, well, I want my supervisors to decide who on their team is going to do the job, or I don't have someone who is specifically a planner, but I have a supervisor who is out working in the hospital or in the school district, and I can get if he could access it from if they could access it from their mobile device, they'd be able to plan the work and decide who's going to do it and give the job to the right person. So we added that functionality in in Direct Line Mobile, which, like I said earlier, we've had it in the past. Okay, but it there was some things you had to do in order to make it work. You had to have someone set up as a team lead on an assign to, and it was limited a bit. So we took away the limitations. Now mobile planning can be set for any user, just by setting it in user security. So you go into user security, there's a checkbox that you check, and now that user has access to the planning functions. And I'm going to show you the planning functions in a minute. It allows you to edit information on the work order, like issue to, assign to, add equipment to the work order, change the description, change the priority, which is then going to change your due dates, right? So you can change lots of information. It's not the planning on mobile is not going to be as powerful as what you can do on the work order console, where you've got multi-day scheduling and a scheduling calendar and stuff like that on your console. You're not going to get that on mobile, not yet anyway. But this does give someone like a supervisor who is trying to a supervisor who is out in the field working the ability to issue those work orders as they go. So the setting that you need to change, or the setting that you need to set, is in your user security right here. When you're setting someone as a mobile user, and this is not something that I'm expecting you all to do. Probably you don't all have access to you don't all have access to the security module. But it's as simple, really all I want to show here is that it's as simple as checking this box at the bottom, enable planning function on mobile. If you don't have the, let me grab a pointer here. There we go. There we go, right here, the enable planning function on mobile. If you don't have access to the security module, or you're not sure how to get into the user entry screen, our support team is always available to help, right? If you've never called our support team, I definitely recommend it. We have a very knowledgeable team, and they'll be able to help you do this. And it's just a matter of enabling that planning function on mobile. And then once we enable the planning function on mobile, now we can do some planning from here. So this is our direct line mobile. We don't have an app you need to download. We have a mobile website, okay, or a progressive web app if you're an Android user. You access it by putting in your address. Every client has a unique mobile address that they would go to. When you go to this address, you can, from a mobile device, and I'm working from a PC here, so I can't do it, but from a mobile device, whether it's an iPhone or an Android device, you can add this page to your home screen so it performs like an app. Okay. Again, I would show you that, but I'm on a PC. When I hit login right here, it's gonna take me through security, and it's gonna use the same security as your desktop version. So you're still gonna require a username and a password. I'm in a demo system, so it doesn't require a password, but it would require a username and password. On the login, we have some easy ways for people to find their usernames, and it uses the same account as what you use when you log in with the desktop. So any work order changes you make in here are going to be tied to the same user account as if you made the changes on the desktop. All right, so once we're logged in here, right, you'll notice it looks a little bit different. If you're a current mobile user, you'll see that the layout is very similar, but the template or the color palette is a little bit different. The technology we're using behind it is a little bit different. It's a little bit more powerful. It gives us the ability to add these features. The mobile site looks really good on a PC like this, but some of you are thinking, well, that's not going to look very good on a phone. But what the system will do is it detects the size of your screen and it adjusts accordingly. And I'll show you this a few times as we work through. If you're on a smaller screen like this, if you're on a skinnier screen like your iPhone 12 or whatever, you're on a smaller screen, it takes the menus that were on the left-hand side and it just shrinks them up into this menu button. So you can access them anytime and you can get to, all of your features, and you don't lose any functionality, and it doesn't jam everything up onto a small screen. So now I wanted to show you an example of a time where you might use the planning functions on Direct Line Mobile. So what I did is I created a work order list. So let's say I'm the electrical supervisor. I'm the supervisor for the electrical team at the hospital or at the school district. what I would do is I would create a list right here, just like the my work list and the overdue work orders list. I can create this, and this is something every mobile user can do, is they can create lists like this. So I created a new electrical work order list. So this is work orders that have not been planned yet, right? You'll notice the status of them is initiated, and they're all assigned to electrical. So if I have users who are logging into or who are submitting work orders, and they're saying, well, this is electrical, I'm going to assign it to electrical. Well, now they're going to show up right here in this list for this supervisor. So now the supervisor can select that work order. We can see all of the information about it. And we just go down to the bottom right-hand corner, and there's this little wrench button. And in the past, if like I said, again, I keep going back. If you're a current mobile user, this little wrench button, this little action button in the bottom right-hand corner would have been an action tab up top. So we moved it down here into this button. This button floats. So if we adjust the size of our screen, our button is still there. You'll also notice it completely changed the layout of our work order when I adjusted the size of the screen, right? It takes advantage of all of this extra real estate, but if you're on a small screen, now we just have a list. Now our form is just a list, right? So if I want to edit this work order, I just hit the wrench and I can hit edit work order. And now once it brings up my work order, look at all the things I can change. Okay, so if I want to issue this work order to someone, I can do that. Right? If I want Willie Jackson working on this work order, then I can issue it to him right away. I can add equipment. Right? If I read the description and decided, okay, there's I should have, in this case, that projector checked out as well, then I could add that equipment from here. I can change the priority. So if it was put in without a priority, I could change it, or if it was put in with too long a priority, I could set it to emergency if I felt like it should be something a little bit more urgent, or have a shorter a shorter due date on it. Okay, so I can make all these changes to the work order, and once I've planned it, now I can just set it to in progress, and I can hit save. Now it's going to show up on Willie Jackson's my work list, right? So it's going to show up in his list here. And since I changed the status, well, now I'm going to see it drop off out of my new electrical list. So now the mobile becomes a planning tool for people who are on the go, because all of those things that I did there could be done right from your cell phone while you're pouring a coffee or making breakfast or whatever. You can plan those work orders right from there. Okay, so by adding that simple change to that simple change to how we give users access to planning, it made it so that now we can take 10 supervisors and we can give them all planning rights, and they can all update work orders. Okay, so it's a very, very simple change, and you can add it for someone temporarily and take it away when you don't want them doing it anymore. So, someone's covering vacation, you just check a box, and now they're a planner while the supervisor's on vacation. Right? It just made it a lot easier to do that function that we've been asked about in the past. So that's how we added, or we improved mobile planning. Another thing that I want to talk about, this is another improvement, and something else that I've been asked about many times in the past, is how to set or to be able to receive notifications. So we have the ability to do that in the Direct Line Mobile now to make it so you receive notifications. Right now, or by default, I guess, the only notifications that you would receive is if a work order was issued to you. It'd give you a push notification. We can customize, and I talked to our R&D team about this just to make sure that I wasn't giving you the wrong information. I talked to our R&D team, and they said those notifications can be customized for other events as well. Okay, so if you wanted to receive a notification when something went to a certain assigned to code so that it's in those other lists, then we could do that as well. They can be turned on by the individual from the home screen of mobile. They can be turned on by the individual from the home screen of mobile. Brent, I just saw your question. I'm gonna explain that 2 seconds. It can be turned on by the individual from the home screen, and I'm going to go through how to do that right now. It's supported on Windows and Android devices. It's not supported on Apple because it's one of the few limitations we've found of using a web app is that Apple doesn't allow push notifications from a browser. So since Apple doesn't allow push notifications from a browser, we can't do push notifications on an Apple device. As someone who exclusively uses iPhones, I find it very disappointing. But if you're using Windows devices, or if you are in the 50% of the population who are using Android devices, then these push notifications will work for you. If you're using Apple, the kind of the alternative that we've used, or it's not really a workaround, but the alternative that we've used is we've used email notifications for email notifications, so we can set it up so that you receive an email letting you know that you've had a work order issued to you, and then you can turn on email notifications on your Apple device. So let's quickly go through how to set this up. If you want to use the push notifications, if you're on an app or an Android or Windows device, you hit the configure application settings button. That's on the home screen of the mobile. Then when you're in there, there are a couple of features. There's notifications, and if you just tap on notifications, it's going to ask you if you want to subscribe to the notifications. You just say yes. We can also there's also an edit profile and a change password in there, and I want to show you what those are. They're pretty small features, but it's good to know. My notifications are turned on already, so I don't have notifications here. That's why I did it with screenshots. But if I go to edit profile, it allows me to add an email address. Okay, that's really the only edit I can do to my profile, because it's the only thing that doesn't really affect security, right? Adding your email address, in this case, that gives you that's what would be used if you used the forgot password links or the forgot username links on either the desktop login or the mobile login. It requires you to have an email address tied to your account. Okay, so you can edit that here, and you can change your email address if you changed your email address. Also, the change password function. This is something that we didn't have on mobile until about a year ago. We didn't have a way to change passwords on mobile. Now we do. Now you just come in, put in your old password, your new password twice, and hit submit. We even listed all of the criteria for your password, because there's always a list of criteria for passwords. So those are a couple more things that you can do right from mobile without having to have a desktop login. Yeah, so let's configure. Sorry, just lost my train of thought for a second. Yeah, so just a couple more things that you can do. I actually want to flip back through a couple of slides here, and I want to show you this right here. So we hit enable planning function on mobile. That gives us the ability to plan work orders. We have another box right above that, DL web user only. That is very useful if you have users who you only want to access the mobile. If you don't want them to have access to the desktop version, so you make sure they don't get in and get into trouble or make changes that you don't want them making, you can check that box, and then they'll only have access to the DL web, or the mobile website. Okay, so you can check that box. And the reason I bring that up right now is because when we're in here, one problem we had with limiting that before is that it stopped people from, it made it so that those users could never really change their password. But now that we have changed password on mobile, those users can do that. They never have a reason to log into the desktop. All right. Does anybody have any questions about what we've talked about so far?
I haven't seen any in the chat, and I just want to throw a few things out there that obviously anything you're seeing. Training's free, unlimited for anyone.
Yes.
And you can get that set up, through your account manager, and they can get things set up for yourself or your team. Same with any of those menu items on the mobile. Those can be set up at the user level. So each, supervisor or what have you, if they were setting things up, wouldn't need to have everyone else's. They would kind of, set up their own for them to make it a bit easier as well.
Absolutely. I've got the login that I'm using right now has got access to everything, but that doesn't mean that everybody has to have that. And we're going to talk about things like inventory later. And so, and I was actually going to mention this then. If you have stockroom personnel who you want them to be able to use the inventory functions, but they're not really accessing work orders, you can set that in security so that they only have the inventory functions. So that is it. Just like with the desktop system, you can edit at a user level exactly what everybody has access to. All right, let's go on to the next piece. So the next thing is on-demand inspections. We've talked about on-demand inspections in the previous webinar. So I'm not gonna talk about it too much, but I just want to remind people about the on-demand inspections before we talk about the additional features in checklists. On-demand inspections are there to make it so that a mobile user can create a work order with an attached checklist at the time they need it. So things like daily walkarounds. I just set these up for, or just started setting these up for a client in the last couple of weeks. Daily walkaround inspections. We just set up on-demand inspections so that when the technicians come in and they're ready to start their walk around, they just generate that work order at that point, generates the work order with the checklist attached, and they go on and do it. It can be done on buildings or equipment. We're going to do one on a building today. There is a little bit of setup. I've got a few screens here from the desktop where when you're in the checklist definition entry screen, if you've ever created a checklist, there's an on-demand tab. In that on-demand tab, you're deciding if it's going to be an equipment inspection or a building inspection or room inspection. And then you can do it for an entire equipment class or in a specific equipment ID, or you can do it for things like, or you can do a building inspection and you can do it for a class or specific buildings or all buildings. Okay. There it is. So the way these work, and I'm going to generate one now so that I can show you the checklist. As we go to the on-demand inspection, we're going to do a building inspection. We're going to choose our building here. And we're going to hit next. And now we're going to we have some options we can set. We can sort by the checklist, by a category, by a specific ID. We can do it by time. So if we say we only want to check checklists, or we only want to show us checklists that it's been more than 7 days since we did it, or more than 30 days since we did it, then we can do that here. I'm just going to put it on all so that it shows me everything. And I'm going to go into the monthly checklist for playgrounds, right? These are all the on-demand inspections for Lorne Cassidy Elementary School. I'm going to do this monthly checklist for playgrounds. So I'm going to check that box and I'm going to hit done, and it's going to generate a work order for me. So as quickly as that, I've now generated a work order, right? I've got the whole work orders here. I've got my building, my description, all of that is here. I can even clock into this. So I can hit the little wrench at the bottom and I can clock in to start working on this. Okay, so now everybody knows that I'm going to do my playground inspection or my rounds or whatever it is. But here's the important part. When I go to checklists, here's my checklist, and I have a number of things that I can check. So I can say, this is a pass, servicing materials deteriorating. If I say that's a fail, it lets me put in a description. But what if it wasn't a fail? What if it was a pass, but there was something else? There was something in there that I wanted a follow-up work order created for anyway. Well, I can go over on the right-hand side and I can mark this item as deficient, even though it's passed. It passed, but maybe I want to put in, maybe I want a follow-up work order because it should be painted for aesthetics, right? I can mark that as a deficiency here. Another thing I can do is when I look at this and I say it should be painted for aesthetics. Well, why should it be painted? If I'm just putting that in, nobody's gonna know why. Well, I can grab my camera right here and I can attach a picture to my I can attach a picture to my my checklist right here. And I can attach, my camera is not working right now because I'm using it in the meeting, but it would let me just snap a picture. So if I'm working from my phone, I can just snap a picture of every problem I see, and I can attach to every item on the checklist. I could have a picture attached. Right? Once I'm all done, I say all the checklist items have been completed. I hit save, and now I've closed that checklist. I've created a follow-up work order. If I go to modify follow-up work order, here it is. This is the follow-up work order for that checklist that we just did. So the big things that changed, the big thing that changed here with checklists, because all of that other functionality has been there for years. On-demand inspections have been there for years. The ability to generate follow-up work orders have been there for years. But this functionality where we can mark something as deficient, even though it's passed, no matter what we put in here, we can mark this as a deficiency anyway. And the ability to add pictures to your checklist results is something that's brand new. That's not that it has not existed before this version of Direct Line Mobile. Okay. So that's all I really wanted to say about on-demand inspections, and I really said all of that because I wanted to show you those new features on checklists. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I think we have some people writing here.
Okay.
And while we're waiting, one item, if you start doing checklists and such on this mobile, you can actually start running reports on anything that's deficient, which could be quite helpful down the road. So if you want to say, we've been going to every playground for the last 6 months and doing these inspections, has there been anything wrong? You can actually run reports and it'll spit out only things that had like a fail or a deficiency, and you can actually kind of get a good sense of what's happening and what's going on. It's another nice advantage of using a checklist on your mobile there.
All right.
Well, Charlie just asked, can you compare deficiencies building to building throughout a campus or district?
Yes. Yeah. That can all be done. That can all be done through reports. We actually have in your analytics on your main screen, there's a checklist deficiencies analytic. And so you could add that analytic multiple times for each building or for each building, or for each campus or whatever.
Do you
Yeah,
have
so
the school demo open by chance, Corey?
I don't. I
Okay.
don't. I didn't open it. I didn't open the desktop because if I open that, we'll end up down some rabbit holes. But
Yeah, sure, fair enough.
but for Charlie, if you want to know more about that, reach out to our support line or your account manager. They can set up a training session. We can, and one-on-one we can compare some of your deficiencies.
And Daryl's asking, which I think we did cover, but let's confirm it there, about the new corrective work order be auto-generated from the deficiency description area.
Yes,
which I'm not.
Yes, and that's what we did, right? So from this deficiency description, once we marked that checklist as complete and saved it, it created a follow-up work order. So that's your new corrective work order for doing that repair.
And that, and just to give you a heads up, Daryl, in the work order itself, it would say this work order was created off of this inspection, off of whatever. Here was the deficiency. So all the kind of stuff there. You might not have seen it, but if you looked at the work order, it would have everything that it said it was. From there.
Yeah, I'm just gonna see if I can find it. No.
Did you know? Did you issue it to yourself or?
No.
Oh, okay. If you'd issued to yourself, it'd be super easy to look.
Exactly. There it is. So yeah, here it is right here. So this is the work order that was generated from that deficiency. So this is what it has in the text, right? Follow-up deficiency work order generated from 105.710, which was the original checklist work order. And then there will be a second line there. Let's see if I can expand it. There we go. And here's the deficiency description that I put in. Right here, this was the line. The result wasn't passed, and this is the note that I put in.
I hope that answered that, Daryl. Good. It looks like it did. Chris Payne, which is a question I get often too as well. Analytics available on the mobile, and I'll leave that for Corey. You're welcome.
Analytics are not available from the mobile right now. I don't know if that is something that's in the works, but it's definitely not available right now. like Matt said, we've been asked it before, so um, it's very possible that it's coming. But
And
as of right now, it's not.
and Chris or anyone else, this is also something when talk to your account manager, kind of ask for these sort of things, and they can put in like a ticket to R&D saying, "I've been asked this," and as those build up, maybe over time,
Yeah,
it kind of builds a bit of a pressure for that sort of thing. So just as
exactly.
a thing to you when you're talking to your account manager, you want to drop that to them, saying this is something I was hoping to get or whatever, and then that kind of builds momentum, as it were.
I think we missed one from Brent. Can pictures be added from
Oh,
storage?
sorry, yeah,
No, that's
apologize.
okay. Um, so can pictures be added from storage? I did test that when I first saw your question come up, Brent, and it doesn't look like it allows it right now. That could be a limitation because I'm running it from Windows, or it could be just something that we haven't set up. Um, but that's something that I can find out for you and get back to you on.
And Brent, if there is a picture already part of, let's say, the work order or PM that is accessible on the phone, if you're also wondering that. So if
Yeah,
you had, like your PM had, as part of the PM when it was built, a picture of the asset or whatever, that would be in the documents, and then you could view it.
yeah, yeah. I think he's thinking of I already took the picture and now I want to attach it to the checklist. Um, but yeah, like I said, I tested it. It doesn't look like it allows it, but we can, definitely something we can look into. Everywhere else in the system or everywhere else in mobile, you can pull pictures and documents from that are already stored on your device. So I don't see why we wouldn't allow it there. Um, but I can find out. I'll check with our R&D department and find out, and I'll do some testing on other devices as well. All right. Uh, okay. So the next thing I want to talk about is inventory functions. This is another one that we've had inventory functions in the system for many, many years, or sorry, in mobile for many years. It's very, very useful. Some very useful functions. Um, I'm guessing there's probably not a lot of people in this group who are using inventory in the system just because there's not a lot of I don't talk to a lot of hospitals or schools where they're using inventory. But if you do, if you have spare parts inventory that you want to track, or if you are tracking it, the mobile can really help you with that. Um, as I mentioned earlier, maintenance workers can search live inventory. So when you're updating a work order, when you're saying I used the ballast to fix a light, you can check the inventory to find out if you have it. You can add it right to the work order and pull it out of inventory right from your mobile device. Stockroom staff could use the direct line mobile, so they can be walking into the stockroom with a phone or a tablet in hand, pulling parts off the shelf and adding them on an inventory issue right away. Right? That way, when the stockroom staff is doing that, it's updating, and then the maintenance workers are seeing that updated inventories there. So they're not somebody out in the hospital or in the school doing a repair looking for inventory is going to be able to see that, okay, that's already been taken out of stock. I have to get them to order more, or I don't have enough of them on hand or whatever. Cycle counts can be completed from a mobile device. I'm fairly certain we talked about this in previous webinars. I'll show it to you quickly. This basically what it lets you do is take your phone or take your tablet and walk into your stock room after you've generated a list to count, and you can count your items and plug them into your phone right away, and and there's no need to write them down on a clipboard and then plug them into the PC later. You can just do it all right from your mobile device. I mentioned QR codes here. Um, Barcode scanning has been something that we've used for years. We used it before we had mobile. We used it on mobile, and with QR codes becoming more popular and supported by more devices, QR codes have really become our kind of our preferred method of barcoding. And I listed it here in inventory, but we can also do it on equipment and trying to think of the things we've used it on. We used it on inventory. We used it on equipment. I can't think of any others right now. But the beauty of QR codes is just about every phone and tablet can scan a QR code with the built-in camera. So you can walk up to it and you can use with your iPhone or your Android phone, and you can just scan that inventory tag on the shelf, or you can scan the inventory in your hand, or scan the equipment on the tag right on your equipment. And another great thing about QR codes is they're hard to mess up. So if you print them out on a nice sticky label and somebody writes on them, they've got to write on them pretty bad before you can before they don't scan anymore. That's something we tested in the office. So that's just speaking from experience. And the last thing and the biggest thing that's been added in this version is the ability to enter new inventory items from the mobile. So your stockroom staff places, they order something that they've never stocked before. Now they need to put it in the stockroom. Well, rather than going and sitting down at the PC and doing it, they can be on the loading dock, fill it all out, and then take it and put it on the shelf. So let's take a look at a few of those things. So live inventory results. So issuing parts can be done right from the Direct Line Mobile on the new issue menu. Okay, so we have the a new issue screen where it's going to ask us for a work order. It's going to ask us for part number, and we can issue multiple parts at the same time. Okay, we have a search, so we can search for parts and we can select multiple parts. We just put in our quantity. We've got our work order, we put in our quantity, we hit save, and those parts are pulled out of inventory right away. I mentioned QR codes, and QR codes are useful on this screen as well. So if we had QR codes on our shelf in our stock room, well, now we can walk up with our phone, we can scan the QR, we can be in the issue screen, we can scan the QR code, it'll fill in all the part information, we just put in the quantity. Then we scan the next one, and we just put in the quantity. And the QR code labels usually look something like this. You've got a QR code like this that you can scan, and then you have information here about it. Here we have a slimline ballast, 120 volt. And we've got the GE part number right here. But the label can have really whatever information you want, we can put on here. We don't have there's limits obviously depending on the size of your label, but whatever information you want to put on here, we custom make these labels for you so we can put whatever information you want. Creating new parts. We have an inventory entry screen in our mobile now. It generates a part number for us. And once we generate that, part number, then it starts creating a new record. You see up here, it says new record. It doesn't assign the part number right away. It assigns it once you save it. So you can fill in all of your information about your part, your on-hand quantity, your cost. You manufacture the part number. You can add images to it, right? So you can snap a picture of the inventory item, and then you have it right there. Then those images are always available anytime somebody's looking at this part, which also means anytime your maintenance techs look up the inventory item to see if there's any on hand, they have a picture that they can go by to make sure it's the right one. There's a second tab for ordering details where we can list our suppliers. We can put in our min and max quantities, so we can do all of our inventory setup can be done right from here. The only thing that we don't have on here, and it's really a space, it's really a screen space thing, is that we don't have the ability to add it to the bill of materials for an equipment. Once we've saved our part, then it tells us this is our part. Here's our part number right here. Okay, this is the part number that was generated. It gives us that once we've created it. Now, if we wanted to look at that part, right, we can go to inventory and we can go to inventory search, and we could search for that part. We can go to inventory entry and we can just plug in that part number. I do believe we can do that from here. Right? Here's our inventory item we just created. Well, if we want to make a change to this, let's say we decided, excuse me, I went to the wrong warehouse. There we go. We decided we want to change our quantities, or that we want to edit the on-hand quantity. We want to add another pitcher, or we decided to store it on shelf 5 instead of 6. We can edit any of that information from here and just hit save. Okay, so we have the ability in here to edit our inventory, to create new inventory. That can all be done right here from the Direct Line Mobile. And again, Matt mentioned it earlier, and I'll mention it again, we can limit who can see what screens here, right? So we could give somebody access just to maintenance, or we could give stockroom staff access to just inventory. That way they won't go in and edit any work orders. We can have them just have access to the inventory parts.
And we do have a question, which I think is yes, but probably want to talk to you further with your account manager or Corey. But Charlie was just wondering about using inventory for custodial supplies and having them kind of enter those type of things and track that sort of inventory.
The only limitation that I've seen with that, so we do have some clients who use it for tracking custodial supplies. The only question I've been asked when setting something like that up that I haven't that's caused a bit of a limitation is that you do still need a work order in order to issue the parts. We have set up a few times for a few clients ways to issue parts without a work order, and that would be the kind of thing I think you'd be looking for custodial supplies. But if you're doing work orders for everything, then if you're doing work orders for everything the custodial supplies would be used for, then that's no problem. You would just set it up as inventory, and then you can just tag them onto the work orders. You could even, if you wanted to, you could do things like putting 0 values on all the custodial supplies if you wanted to have it not show up as inventory costs. Chris, I don't know what an SWO is. It's a term I'm not familiar with. Oh, standing work order. I figured it out. Yeah, you could use a standing work order. The only problem with standing work orders is then you have a work order that's open forever, and you can end up with a lot of lines on it. But you could do something like a weekly standing work order or a monthly standing work order that you close once a month and open a new one. So yeah, that is possible. You could do that. Are there any other questions before we get into the last little piece of this?
Nope, I think we're good. I'm not seeing anything else.
Okay. So the last little piece, and I say it's a little piece because it is something that's been in the system a long time, except with one new feature, and that's equipment functions. Okay. And it's a little bit different than it has been in the past, and we have added one new feature to it, which is adding new equipment. Okay. The So you can add new equipment, you can look up existing equipment, and you can search for related info for a piece of equipment. So for related work orders or PMs, for example.
And a fixed asset.
Yes, fixed asset.
Okay.
Yeah. I wrote equipment on all of my slides, and then as soon as we started, I thought I shouldn't have wrote equipment. It should be fixed asset. Um, so I apologize for any confusion that caused. But in our we have a building asset entry. This is where we can enter new fixed assets, right? So we can put in a new number, we can create a new item, and we can add a bill of material to it. Okay. We can also go in, do a search, and let me just bring up a piece of equipment because I want to show you where we can find the related related work orders and things. So if I bring up this boiler here, right, we have all of our information about it, and we can add all of this if we're creating a new one as well, right? We can put in our building number, or yeah, our asset number and our description and the parent to fit it into the hierarchy. We can put manufacturer and supplier details. We can attach documents and pictures. We can add the bill of materials, all the parts that are used on it, right? So we can add all of that information in here on our equipment. And for existing equipment, we have our little wrench down in the bottom right-hand corner. On our little action wrench, we can view open work orders. We can view on-demand inspections. We can view available PMs. These are all the PM procedures for that that piece of equipment. We can see when they were last done and when they're next due on each one. We can oh, yeah, so we could look at on-demand inspections. We could see any children and any work orders. We can also look at previous inspections. I picked the wrong one the second time. Same one again. All right. So previous inspections, what that's going to be is our on-demand inspections or our checklists are going to they're all going to be they're all being archived, right? So if we go to previous inspections, we can see all the previous checklists. So if we want to see what was checked last month, or did something fail last month or last week or 2 years ago, we can see that in the previous inspections. We can look at checklist history there.
It should be boiler 001. You should be able to see that, I think.
001.
Yeah. Should have a.
Yeah, there. This is the one that I had before that that I lost. There we go.
Yeah, so there.
Previous
yeah,
inspections.
I know I've done work on those boilers.
Thanks, Matt. So in here now we can see all of our previous inspections, and you see there's a date on each one, right? This is when they were done. So if I'm doing doing my quarterly inspection, right? We did it in June. Did we have a failure back in February? Well, here now we can look at our complete checklist from there, right? So that gives us equipment history. It gives us an equipment history that's not just looking at work orders, but looking at the previous inspections, and we can give anybody access to that just by giving them access to the building asset module within Direct Line Mobile. And again, I'm going to show you just one more time, because our form here has a lot of information on it, including bill of materials and all of our notes and comments and all of that. And I just want to show you that when you work with this from a phone, you can still access all of that information, right? The system detects the size of your screen and it adjusts accordingly. All of the controls on the Direct Line Mobile are all touch optimized, so they're all set up to be used. They're all set up to be used from a phone, as long as it's bigger than an iPhone 6, I believe. It's the controls will all be nice and easy to use. All right, so that was the last little piece that I wanted to show you. Does anybody have any other questions?
I'm not seeing any, but to throw out an idea that some clients have done when Corey was mentioning QR codes, if you have a QR code on an asset, you can go up and be like, well, what PMs are supposed to be done on this, or what have you. You know, you just pull that up when you're out there and have all that stuff he was showing you right basically at your fingertips, which is kind of nice as an idea for a summer intern to start maybe QR coding some key pieces of assets or something. But you know, just ideas you could be using the system for.
Yeah, and
Kim, yes.
Sorry, I meant to mention that actually. You can, so we do have a few clients, hospitals mostly, who are doing that with tagging all their beds with QR codes. And that way, when you walk up to that bed, because the bed is moving from room to room, and you don't know, when somebody puts in a work order for the bed in room 205, you don't know what bed is in room 205 on the 25th of July. It's very likely a different one that was in room 205 on the 22nd of July. So if it's got a barcode on it, then you can walk in with your phone. You can go to your building number here and scan that barcode and look at it. I mean, obviously you can type in the equipment number as well if that's on a tag, but scanning the barcode, and then you've got all the information at your fingertips, including the equipment history.
And to everyone who's asking, absolutely, there'll be a recording from this webinar that you can share with people and stuff, and then eventually gets put up on our YouTube page, which also has all the other webinars that Corey has done, which are also worth checking out on things like checklists, PM procedures, lots of different things. So absolutely, you will have access to this.
Yeah, everyone who got
oh, it's right there. Sorry.
That's okay. Everyone who responded to there's I forgot that was on the last slide. Everyone who responded to the invite will receive a copy of the not a copy, but a link to the recording. So then you can share that with whoever, and it'll be up on our YouTube channel for anybody to view. And we always welcome any comments, any feedback. You can reach out to me directly or send it to our support team, and they'll pass it on to me.